Hi, I'm Joanne Berger from Red Curl Jewelry, and I decided to make a little tutorial video, I guess, about how I make ear wires, because I'm mostly self-taught, and ear wires is one of those things that getting a pair of matching ear wires was always really hard. And I went round and around and I kind of developed my own method from other tutorials, things people showed me. It's one of those things that's far harder than it looks. And someone gave me some feedback that my method they found to be super easy, so I thought that I would share it. So that's what's to come. Alright, so this is how I make ear hooks, or ear wires. This is 20 gauge dead soft wire, which is a pretty standard wire. You can also use 22, but it's very thin, or you can buy 21 gauge, which is kind of specifically for ear wires, but this is way more common. You can also use half hard. I choose not to simply because I use 20 gauge for a lot of different things, and I want it in dead soft, and I'll go over how to make it harder. These are your basic tools. Now, you don't have to have these because you can actually make the loop of the ear wire with a pen barrel, but the rest of them you kind of have to have. You have to have a way to cut the wire. You have to have some pliers to hold the wire, ruler, you know. There's going to be some math, but it won't be hard, I promise. Alright, I'm going to get into it because I have a pair of earrings to make for an order. So let's make some ear wires. Let's get everything out of the way. So this is how I do it. And like I said in my intro, I came to this after lots of frustration with tutorials that just, in my opinion, miss steps. So here we go. We've got our 20 gauge wire. Oh, come on, focus in the right place. There we go. And you're going to want 6 inches, about. Doesn't have to be perfect. I happen to like this little ruler because it has a slot in it. See how I'm fitting the wire down in the slot. I'm going to go a little over just because I like to. So there's 6 inches right there. Now you can do two things. You can hold it and snip it, which is what I'm going to do. Or you can hold it, and with that little Sharpie, which in a perfect world, you've opened earlier, mark it, then take it off and cut it like a civilized person like this. As you can see, that's not what I do. We're done with the ruler. Oh no, we're not done with the ruler. You can see the full Joanne. You want to mark the middle. You'll see why in a minute. Turns out that Sharpie is really hard to open, so I'm going to open one of my big ones, but you can just use a fine Sharpie. That's all I generally use. So we're going to call this approximately the middle. It doesn't have to be perfect. Middle. Go away, ruler. And go to the side Sharpie. Okay, here we go. With our 6-ish inch piece of wire that has a nice mark in the middle. We're going to use our chain nose pliers, which are these guys with the standard no teeth end. We're going to hold it right next to the mark because we want a bend on the mark. Here's what we're going to do now that we have that. We're going to bend it. See how it's right next to the pliers? And the result is that that little bend mark ends up right in the bend in the middle. And then this is the tricky bit. You're going to squeeze that bend tight. See how it kind of wants to slip around in the pliers? It's just a part of the deal. Now, you have this crazy business like this. 2 wires like that, going in every which way. Again, it's dead soft. You're going to want to harden it for ear wires. So some of this working is hardening it as we go. We'll do some more hardening here in a minute. Now, if you think about how an ear wire is shaped, she says, taking her earrings out, like this, you want that little kick at the end. It's an important part because it's part of what helps the earring stay in your ear. It makes it a little harder for it to slip out. So, that's where we're going to put it. We're going to put a little bit in our pliers. I think it needs to be about that big. It's going to end up with a little over 1/8. Hold it like that in your pliers and just give it a little kick. So you end up with a piece. Come on, focus, you can do it. Like this. See that little kick? So that's the very end of your ear wires. Now comes the bendy bit. We're going to make that big hook right there. So when I do this, I have these nice big baling pliers, and I put it in there thusly and I turn it. You probably don't have baling wires. If you don't, you could take a Sharpie. Hold your thumb on the wire and just bend it round. I'm not going to do that on a Sharpie. because this particular pair of earrings needs a smaller hook for scale. So I'm going to actually do it with a pencil. Really, you just need something that's round. So here we go. We're going to bend my thumb, holding it down, and bend. Like that. Ta-da! Look at that. It's starting to look like earring wires. Now, we need to put that little kink in that's distinctive of ear wires. Whoops. This piece right here, this straight bit. So again, we're going to come back to our chain nose pliers. We're just going to kind of decide where I want it. In this case, I tend to like it kind of, not a little bit higher than the back of my hook. It's personal preference, how you want that to look. Bend. See that? I just held it, and I actually pushed this part back. Ear wires. Now you have some choices to make at this point. You can clip them apart and go from there. You can keep them together to do the next couple of bends. Now, if you clip them apart, the next couple of bends are easier if they're separated, but that's the opportunity to introduce some differences between your ear wires, so you might lose some of the identicalness if you do that. So I tend to continue to struggle through at this point. The other thing to consider here is which way you need your loop to go. Most of the time, you want your loop in the same plane as your hook, so meaning, see how this is all flat? But there are certain earring designs where you'll want to have this loop 90 degrees to the hook. For basic simple earrings, most earrings, you want it in the same plane. So you can just take these guys, again with your chain nose pliers, decide how tall you want this section to be. I don't want it super tall, so I'm not going to go very far into my pliers. Probably on my pliers about 1/2 inch. Actually no, that's more like 3/8. And I'm going to bend 90 degrees. And I just pushed it with my thumb. So now it looks like that. So now, from this point, I am going to clip them apart, because trying to turn these little loops right here and make the wrap loops, that's just not a thing that you can really do when they're together. So, to separate them into 2 earrings, you come to this little bend and go snap. And you have 2 proto ear wires. Now, this part, even though I cut it flat, can still be kind of sharp. So you can take a nail file and just sand it, basically. And you can feel it's not smooth. If you ever put a pair of earrings in your ear and thought, ow, it's probably because somebody didn't sand the end of their ear wire. They also have things called cut burrs, which I actually have, but again, you don't need 597 special tools to make a pair of earring wires. Did I say this is sterling silver wire? This happens to be sterling silver wire, but you can do this with artistic wire that you get from Michaels. And do that there. Oh, that one still has a little bit of a rough spot. Take the time to get these rough spots out. It will make a huge difference when you go to put these in your ears. Okay, now, this is too soft, because see how easily I can bend that? That means it could get bent out of someone's ears. The upside is I can still adjust the shape. Like I've decided both of those are too open, so I've closed them up. Here is how you make it harder. That is a bench block. I can't readily think of a replacement for a bench block, but if anyone has any brilliant ideas on that one, they can tell me. Now, where I do 2 steps of hammering, I hammer to flatten this part out. That's a very typical, you see it a lot on ear wire, so here we go, let's do that. It's very loud, so I'm not going to talk. Ideally, you should hammer on both sides. So you see how it sprung back? Much harder. Okay, I'm going to do that to the other one now. Come here, little earring. Notice that I'm not taking big, huge swings here. This is not like a Herculean task. Now, you want to keep the part that goes through your ear round. So you don't want to use a steel hammer for that. I have fancy hammers like this. I'm going to go through and just kind of whack it. Doesn't really change the shape. But it is going to harden up the rest of the ear wire. Honestly, if you start with really, most people should start with half hard or use the artistic wire, which is going to probably come half hard. I just don't because I'm contrary. Now, we need to make the little circles to hold on the earring. These are my round pliers. You can see how I have put black marks on these. That's so that I get loops that are the same size. I use these for all different kinds of stuff. For earrings, I like something in the end bit here. I like my loops on earrings a little bit smaller. I'm actually going to go for this particular pair of earrings about there. And then I'm going to curl it around like that. So it looks like that. And then I'm going to bring it the rest of the way with my thumb and then my hand. See how I've left it a little open? That's so I can slide the earring in. Note on plier usage, when you're turning, turn the natural direction your wrist goes. It's just a little ergonomics for you, save your wrist. So at this point, before we wrap that loop, I'm going to put my earring on. Get on there. Pro tip, and see I just did it. Make sure the front of your earring is facing the front of your hook. I just got it backwards, so now I'm going to take that off and try again. So the piece of the earring you want forward should be so the back of the hook is facing you. I cannot tell you the number of times not checking that has bitten me in the bum. Okay, now we're going to finish our wrap loop. It's a little tricky because of this guy, but not the end of the world. Now you can just grab this wire in your fingers and pull it around, but I just find that it's a little easier for me to grab it in another pair of pliers. As you can see, I'm using my round nose pliers to just grab the end of it and wrap it around. This is nice and secure. Earring's not going to fall off. I like 3 wraps because I do. There's no rhyme or reason. Good things come in 3s, I guess. So I end it there. Notice how the wire, I'm going to clip it. I'm going to clip it right here. I'm going to send that wire flying, never to be seen again. That little end is not on camera. That little end right there is kind of sticking out, so we're just going to squeeze him in there. We're going to run our finger over it to make sure there's no rough bits. If there is. We're just going to hit it with a file real quick. Ta-da! Very secure. Nice and springy. I'm trying to just demonstrate the springiness. See how it's not bending. It's nice and springy. That's it. I'll do it again. So we're here. I say that's it. The whole reason I'm making this is because this is way harder than it looks. Get some cheap wire, like copper, although copper is really soft, but I'm practice over and over again because seriously, it is harder than it looks. Knowing how much wire to grab, see how much wire I've grabbed for, what is that, a 5 centimeter loop, I'd call it, interior diameter. Let's see, that time it wasn't quite enough. Again, I keep getting you off camera. I'm probably gonna have to reshoot this whole thing, but that's okay. It wasn't quite enough. I didn't get all the way around. No fear. You can move your pliers if you're very confident. Or you just, again, push it around with your finger. This is not huge, huge fat wire. It's just 20 gauge. So you can manipulate it with your fingers. We're gonna put this guy on. Make sure that we are pointing the right direction, which we are. We're gonna come in here, grab it with our pliers. And we're gonna bring it around, kind of a different angle on this one. Oops, I stacked those 2. There we go. bringing it around. Three wraps in the front, bringing it around, so I'm clipping it so that that end will be in the back. Which, I mean, you know, that's one of those finish things that makes the difference between a perfectly fine piece of jewelry and a really nice piece of jewelry, is that the time taken for those little finish details. That one did not fold nicely. There we go. Not the end of the world. All fixed. I put a little nick on there. So I'm sanding it off. It happens. Okay. There you have it. Lovely French ear wires.